Welcome to the Town Board Workshop and Public Hearing, Thursday, July 5th, 2018. Please rise and salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Emergency exits are to my right, behind the town attorney, and also the door we came in. Roll, please.
Councilwoman Simoji. Here. Councilman Morris.
Here.
Councilman Gutierrez.
Here.
Councilwoman Doyle. Here. And Supervisor Prodi.
Here. Make a motion to open the public hearing, local law for solar moratorium.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, I believe we received,
So I circulated earlier today that I received from the Dutchess County Planning that this is of local matter. The matter was circulated to Town of Dover, Town of Washington, Town of Northeast, Town Clerks, Town of Amenia Planning Board, Town of Amenia Zoning Board of Appeals, Town of Amenia Zoning Review Committee, Dutchess County Department of Planning, New York State Department of Transportation, and Poughkeepsie. And the only response back, like I said, was from Dutchess County Planning. They indicate that it's municipal boundaries. All other local laws are associated with zoning, and there's no comments, for this is a matter of local concern.
I spoke with the planning board chair this afternoon, and this issue is going to be on the agenda for the planning board meeting on July 16th. So at this time, I would like to continue the public hearing until we receive the information from the planning board. Until the July 19th meeting. And do I need to make a motion for that, or can I just say we're going to continue it?
No, so, well, it would just be a motion to adjourn the public hearing to July 19th.
Make a motion that
You want
we
to come out of
adjourn.
public hearing first?
No, we need,
Oh.
well, we can do it, we need to come out of
Come out of
public
the
hearing
public hearing.
first, right?
To make that motion to
Yeah,
adjourn?
well, you would make the motion to adjourn the public hearing till July 19th.
You're not closing it.
You're not closing it, you would just adjourn
All
it
right.
till the 19th.
Okay, that's what you're doing, Vicki?
I was going to make a motion that we adjourn the public hearing to July 19th.
Second.
Jim.
Whoever got in there
Jim was
first.
louder. Okay, so July 18th. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Is there any public comment? Since no one is here, I guess not. Supervisors report. Wassaic Trail to the Train update. Title certifications are in progress. Property owner easement documents are being finalized. Highway work permit is being renewed, and bond resolution process has been initiated. Town of Amenia Highway Garage land update. OGS, which is the Office of General Services, still is in the process of preparing the declaration of abandonment with DEC pursuant to Section 30A of Public Lands Law, which should be completed soon. Old Amenia landfill update. Received certificate of completion and registry reclassification from 2 to 4 from the DEC on June 28, 2018. Class 4 means it is a former Class 2 site that has been cleaned up and no longer poses a threat to health or the environment. We are in the process of filing with the county and recording the documents as required. Hazardous mitigation grant. The town of Amenia developed a hazardous mitigation plan with Dutchess County to identify vulnerable areas so that after it was complete and sent to New York State, grant money would be available. New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services required an initial letter of intent for the current grant cycle. The letter of intent sent from the town of Amenia for the bank stabilization on Deep Hollow Road for $80,000 was collaboration between grant writer Mike Haggerty and Highway Superintendent Megan Chamberlain. We received a letter from New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services stating that they are pleased to forward the town of Amenia the attached application package that is due to our office by 5 p.m. Wednesday, August 1st, 2018, for the proposed upgrade to Deep Hollow Road, which grant writer and highway superintendent will be completing. 5, Climate Smart certification. I created an account on the Climate Smart Community Governmental Portal and uploaded resolution number 35 of 2017 authorizing Climate Smart Communities Pledge in order to work towards certification and to be eligible for grants. Town Clerk report.
Good evening. The minutes of June 21st and June 26th were circulated to the town board members prior to the meeting. Are you prepared to make action on those?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented for June 21st.
Second.
Councilwoman Samoji?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Abstain.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prodi?
Abstain.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented for June 26th, 2018.
Second.
Councilwoman Samoji?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prodi?
Yes.
I also report to the board, provided to the supervisor earlier this week, was the monthly share. Monthly share totals $5,323.50. I also share with our community members a reminder that the town of Amenia is seeking to fill the paid position of a highway worker and is seeking to fill the volunteer positions of town historian, CAC member, and water district committee member. Applications are available either on our website at www.ameniany.gov or located right outside the town clerk's office. And that will conclude the town clerk's report for this evening.
Okay, Building Department report. For June, we have issued 11 new building permits totaling $4,211. Did 8 searches, which total $1,000, 5 fire inspections of $300, along with administrative fee of $50, vacant property registration of $125, and 2 renewals of $300, bringing the total for the month $5,986. Are there any other committee reports?
We have a recreation meeting on June 12th at 6 p.m. according to my calendar. Does that sound right?
That's right. Yes.
That's the only committee that I know of that's meeting for sure.
That's the only one I know.
Okay. Resolution for solar moratorium local law will be tabled till after.
Building.
The what?
Building department.
I just did the building.
She did read it out loud.
Sorry. I didn't cross it off my agenda.
You're all caught up now?
I'm all caught up.
Okay, we won't be doing the resolution for solar moratorium local law since we continued the public hearing. Resolution for Trail of the Train bond,
Number 34.
and you have it.
Did she just give it to me? I sent them to her. Did she not print them?
You sent them to who?
Nancy. And the email that went to you and her.
No?
Well, if you want to go to another agenda item, and as you're reading, I can go print them.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go to the noise ordinance local law. There were still some questions about that, so I wanted to table that to the next meeting also. So we'll do the,
Sorry, what were the questions?
there were some questions about the site distance between the properties, because the noise law referred to timber harvesting, and the code enforcement officer had some questions that went to the attorney.
Okay.
Could they please share the results of the questions with us so we,
Yeah, he hasn't answered them yet.
okay.
No, I'll send them to you as soon as I get them.
Okay.
Okay, resolution for Crawford Engineering change order. I sent you the letter from Crawford and Associates. We ran into some issues when we were doing the ADA, the engineering for the ADA improvements. We were going to fix the ramp outside this door and extend it, but we found we couldn't do that because the tunnel is underneath it. So instead, he had to look for alternatives to the ramp design, which is going to be a chairlift on one side, and on the other side, there'll be ADA appropriate steps. And there is some other issues too that, we didn't. Okay, the original bid was for the replacement windows, modifications of the bathrooms, modifications to the ramp, and we ran into problems with the ramp, and installation of ADA compliant automatic doors.
How did the doors get into their scope? Just offhand.
Because our doors aren't ADA compliant.
Oh, I know, but
And I asked the county about it, and the county said that anything that is ADA compliant can be included in the grant. In fact, they told me that when they came out here to look at the building, that they felt that's the type door we should have there already. So it would be one of the doors, someone in a wheelchair
push the
or
button.
would be able to press a button and the door would open for them. So
What was the total grant that we had?
we have one grant for the ADA improvements. It's for $93,500. The grant for the windows is $50,000.
Okay.
And right now, county planning has all the engineering for the ADA, because they have to not only approve it, but they have to send it out to other organizations and get approvals.
And
So we're waiting back here to hear back from them so we can go out to bid.
with the windows?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the things, since Crawford gave us a price to do both, their thought is to send the project out, both projects out to bid, and have one contractor handle both and sub out both. That way you would have one contractor overseeing the subcontractor doing the windows and the subcontractors doing the ADA improvements in the building.
Okay.
And I've sent you all the engineering.
Yeah, I did get them. So my two questions were just about Crawford's initial scope, which my recollection is that we asked them to consult on the ramp, and planning for the windows, because we couldn't just put the window project out to bid. We had to have a more detailed spec. So,
Well, the thing with according to our procurement policy, since the windows are over
certainly.
$30,000, they have to go out for formal bid.
Right, but Crawford's not going to replace the windows. They're going to prepare the bid for the windows, right? Like, we're paying them to prepare the bid.
Prepare the bid and do all the engineering, so that the engineering that they do is what the person who gets the bid is going to use as a template to do the work.
Okay.
Are they going to oversee the work as well?
Yes.
So then, if they're going to oversee the work, why do we need a sub to then oversee the work as well?
They're responsible for the sub.
Well, I'm assuming we're going to pay for that sub, though, right? Like, we're paying them $20,000 as part of this. So is their oversight of the work then included in this?
In the grant?
In this, what we're going to vote on to, currently we authorize them for what? What was it? The original amount was 15,000?
To do both
To do
projects.
both projects. And they're asking for another 5,000. So,
Right, because we ran into issues with the ramp.
so as part of this new $20,000, they're going to oversee the work, which they're going to hire a subcontractor to do.
They aren't.
They are not.
The contract, whatever contractor gets the bid is going to hire the subcontractors to do the work, unless, they're doing some of it themselves.
Okay.
But they're going to oversee, whatever a contractor is going to get both projects. They're going to get windows and they're going to get ADA.
Okay, seems to me like we're introducing a middleman there. We're paying them for oversight, and then they're going to have another contractor in between them and people actually doing the work, then.
Well, maybe the contractor might be able to do some of the work.
Typically, what they would do is they would do the inspections to ensure that the work is in accordance with the specifications that were bid. So I don't think they'd necessarily be like a clerk of the works position where they'd be, overseeing the job on a day-to-day basis, but they would be doing the sign-offs for purposes of when the payment requests come in for the work to be done. So they would be in the position of certifying that the work was done in compliance with the bid specifications.
I think Damien's question, though, is that if you have Crawford on the top, and they then retain two contractors.
No,
No.
they wouldn't be, they would do, they would draw the bid specifications that would go out to bid. And so one of the issues could be if you bid it as one job, theoretically one contractor could bid that and then
So you'd have
sub
one
out to a,
to two
so-
subcontractors.
So what it would typically be is one contract, and it may be subcontracted to different people. One way you could do it is you could have somebody who has, typically it's done based on, the greater value of the project. So the person, it seems here, the ADA work would constitute most of the work. That person would then basically be the bidder on the job. They would then sub out the window portion of the job to someone else. Crawford's job then would just be to do the inspections
Okay.
of the work as it's done.
So you're talking about one general contractor and maybe two
Right.
subs.
One or two subs, depending on, and, one of the things is the person who does the doors may well, the person who does the windows may in fact be the person who does the doors, but, they'll probably have a plumbing subcontractor to do, the bathroom work and things like that. So, the thing that would probably make the most sense is to do it as one bid with a general contractor who would then sub it out. Crawford would not be the general, in fact, they can't be. You can't,
They're a consultant.
but right, and they would
They're the
certify the work.
engineer.
You can't prepare the bid specifications and then bid on the work.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Okay? Okay. Resolution?
34.
Authorizing change order to Crawford and Associates Engineering, PC Engineering Services Agreement regarding town hall improvements. Whereas the town board authorized a proposal for engineering services for the town hall window replacement and ADA improvement projects, which were proposed as two separate projects in the amount of $7,000 and $11,000, respectively, but were consolidated pursuant to communication from Crawford Associates Engineering, PC dated February 14, 2018, into a single project for a fixed fee of $15,000. Whereas as a result of unexpected circumstances, additional work has been performed to prepare appropriate plans and specifications as a result of issues associated with an underground tunnel, which was not previously known to exist, in addition to previously unanticipated work regarding replacing the main front entry doors and installing a motorized door opener. Whereas by letter dated June 26, 2018, Crawford and Associates PC has submitted a change order for consideration in the amount of $5,000. Now therefore be it resolved that the additional work for the town hall improvement project design is authorized in the amount of $5,000, increasing the total contract from $15,000 to $20,000. And be it further resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized to execute change order number 1 in the amount of $5,000, subject to final review and approval of the town attorney. I make that motion?
Second.
Discussion.
Yes.
Just to take a second to revisit the idea of maybe in our next year's budget having some position created that's part of a Department of Public Works, or some town position that could help us with these types of projects. We are going to pay Crawford, in their original bid, they had suggested $7,000 to oversee the window bid. Now, I'm not a contractor, and I'm not totally fluent in that, but I did just have windows replaced in my house. It's not a supremely complicated job, and you could probably find a lot of contractors to come in and theoretically, especially with the county grant and the county shared services for bid writing, we could probably put that out to bid ourselves.
No, we couldn't,
Why not?
because county grant has specific,
County bid.
the county, yes. For a county grant,
Not for the grant, but the shared services for bid writing.
no, I'm trying to explain that to you.
Okay.
There's, for the county grant, the CDBG grant, we could not use that because they require 3 bids from engineers. It's a grant requirement.
I think we're talking, a grant requirement.
Yes, it's a grant requirement.
Ah,
See, for the dormitory authority grant for the windows, that's not a requirement. But for the CDBG grant, if you don't get 3 bids for engineering, they will not reimburse you for the engineering funds.
for the engineering funds. Wait, no, I'm confused. Sorry. Sorry. I'm saying we could possibly avoid engineering funds for a project like window replacement.
can't.
No. What she's saying is that with the CD, Community Development Block Grant, we wouldn't be eligible for reimbursement for engineering funds, not for the actual, we could still get reimbursed for the actual work to do that. Am I characterizing that inappropriately?
Yes, but the windows don't have anything to, do not have anything to do with the CDBG grant. It's a dormitory authority
Great, so
grant.
we're back to square one. So the county has offered as a shared service bid writing. That's
Yes.
one of the things. So my point originally was that we could we could write our own bid, we could take advantage of the shared services with the county, and for something like window replacement, we could write our own bid and then not pay an engineering fee, $7,000 to prepare that bid for us. Clearly, I see that they would be needed for the ADA stuff. I think that that's important. That's not what I'm.
But this was already in process before that shared service even became available to us.
Yeah, look, I'm going to vote for this.
No, I'm saying going forward, yes, we could.
Okay.
You know, if anything else should come up, we could use the county services. but because of, the CDBG, they're very particular about how your grant is administered, and they have a lot of rules. So if you want to get reimbursed the total amount of the grant, you have to follow the rules.
Understood, but just to again clarify that point, they would still reimburse us for the window project, just not the engineering fees, unless we have an engineering firm prepared. Okay, so in short, my point is it would be great to talk about a position that the town could create, another job here in town, where instead of paying $7,000 to an engineering firm for a project as simple as window replacement, maybe we could apply that to a position here with the town in the future. That's just,
I think you're oversimplifying window replacement for the whole lower floor of the town hall. I mean, it's quite a large project. And as well, I mean, I've had windows put in my house, you've had windows put in your house, but this is a much larger project. And, going forward, if we, are eligible for grants going forward to replace the rest of the windows, we certainly can use the county's procurement officer at that time.
great. Okay,
Okay?
that's all I had to say about that.
Supervisor,
Roll, please.
Supervisor Brody?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Samoji?
Yes.
These are the extras that were copied for us tonight.
So in the packet that I just circulated is, there's two resolutions. I just stapled them so everything's together. The first item is the secret determination for
Let
the...
me just cut you short.
Okay. You want to wait?
No, Resolution 16 of 2013 was done for the Trail to Train project, and there was a negative declaration issued back then. So I don't think you have to adopt you don't
The
need to.
seeker?
Yeah, the seeker finding was done as, looks like Resolution 16 of 2013, adopted on April 1st, 2013.
So we don't have to do it for the bond resolution?
It's already been done.
Okay.
All right, so we're just doing,
So we're just going to do the
Is
second
amount
one?
correct?
But there's no amount in the seeker,
Oh,
the seeker
The seeker has,
determination is just neg deck.
yeah, seeker has been completed for the project.
Right.
Okay.
Because that issue came up with respect to,
Okay.
So would you be so kind then to give direction? Because in his email, it talks specifically about the clerk doing the certifications
okay,
for each one of the two resolutions.
okay.
I mean, it's
So,
literally on
let me-
one page, just double space at this time.
So, I mean, there's no harm,
He's, is...
I thought his resolution, oh, well, he just did it, it's already been done. So,
Yeah, it's not saying, it's not redoing it, it was just,
oh, okay,
it's just determined that the board is adopting this resolution has declared itself to be lead agency under seeker, hereby
Right.
determined the project describes section 3 as a type
Yep.
1 action, and they're not
Yeah, so that's
redoing
fine.
it. They're
Yep.
just, I think, maybe doing a summary, so then that way I can send
Yep.
him certification.
that's fine. And then just, so add a paragraph. Where's, to section 2.
Okay,
If you would amend section 2. Just note that on, it is hereby determined that the project described in this section is a type 1 action, and it is hereby determined that will have no significant adverse impact upon the environment.
as established in resolution, blah, 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 blah.
Correct.
Okay, so as established
we're at the end of the first paragraph?
in
Section 2.
resolution number, you said 16?
16 of 2013.
Of 20.
We're doing the resolution with the seeker,
Right.
the first one.
Oh,
So on page 2, section 2,
We're going to put as,
He threw it out already.
I threw it out already, sorry. Hey, I got it. I mean,
that's
burn
okay,
it.
it's
So
just,
if you go to
it's just for you to read, that's okay.
Section 2, it's going to read, "It is hereby determined that the project described in the Section 3 of herein is a type 2, is a type 1 action which is hereby determined will not have any significant adverse impact upon the environment as established in Resolution Number 16 of 2013." Then that way then I can refer
In
to it.
Resolution
Right.
16?
Because that's got the EAF, it's got all the information that was
I want
done.
to follow him.
No, I know Doug,
Same thing if
so
you
I
did
know
it to
Doug.
me.
I
I
know.
follow your
I
direction.
know Doug, so.
Well, sounds good.
Resolution number 35 of 2018.
I'm sorry, hold on one second, sorry. So, there was a negative determination in 2013?
Right.
By
Yes.
some resolutions. What do we need this for, then?
This is establishing the amount of the bond.
No, the first one.
That's the,
Seeker.
this,
He just needs those stickers.
it talks about the maximum estimated cost of the bond. So, we're just, in essence, for purposes of the bond resolution,
It's what bond council is
bond
requiring.
council typically has a resolution like this. So, we're just restating when it was done,
Okay, so then,
particularly since it was so removed in time.
so we're adding in section 2, after as,
As established
Okay.
in Resolution 16 of 2013.
okay.
Okay? Seeker determination resolution, your construction project of a bicycle trail path extending from the hamlet of Wassaic to the Wassaic train station in and for the town of Amenia, Dutchess County, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $1 million. At a regular meeting of the town board of the town of Amenia, Dutchess County, New York, held at Town Hall in Amenia, New York, in said town, on the 5th day of July, 2018, at 7:00 p.m. prevailing time. The meeting was called to order by Supervisor Victoria Perotti. Upon roll being called, the following were present: Supervisor Victoria Perotti, Councilwoman Victoria Doyle, Councilman James Morris, Councilman Damian Gutierrez, and Councilwoman Michelle Samaji. The following resolution was offered by, do you want to do that?
Sure, I'll make that motion.
And seconded by?
I'll second.
Resolution dated July 5, 2018, a resolution of the Town of Amenia, Dutchess County, New York, as to seeker determination. Be it resolved by the Town Board of the Town of Amenia, Dutchess County as follows. Section 1, it is hereby determined the Town Board adopting this resolution has therefore declared itself to be the lead agency under the State Environmental Quality Review Act and regulations promulgated thereunder for purposes of determining the environmental impact of the project described in Section 3 hereof. Section 2, it is hereby determined that the project is described in Section 3 hereof is a Type 1 action which, it is hereby determined, will not have any significant adverse impact upon the environment as established in Resolution 16 of 2013. Section 3, the project, which is the subject of the resolution, including its maximum estimated cost, is described as follows. Construction of a bicycle trail path extending from the hamlet of Wassaic to the Wassaic train station in and for the town of Amenia, Dutchess County, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $1 million. Section 4, the resolution shall take effect immediately. The question of the adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly put to a vote on a roll call, which resulted in as follows.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Samoji?
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 36. Bond resolution dated July 5, 2018. A resolution authorizing, subject to permissive referendum, the construction of a bicycle trail path extending from the hamlet of Wassaic to the Wassaic train station in and for the town of Amenia, Dutchess County, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $1 million and authorizing the issuance of $1 million serial bonds to pay the costs thereof. At a regular meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Amenia, Dutchess County, New York, held at the Town Hall in Amenia, New York, in said town on the 5th of July, 2018, at 7 o'clock p.m. prevailing time. Meeting was called to order by Supervisor Perotti. On roll being called, the following were present: Supervisor Victoria Perotti, Councilwoman Victoria Doyle, Councilman James Morse, Councilman Damian Gutierrez, Councilwoman Michelle Samaji. The following resolution was offered by,
I'll offer it.
and who moved its adoption, seconded by.
I'll second.
Bond resolution dated July 5, 2018, resolution authorizing, subject to permissive referendum, the construction of a bicycle rail trail path extending from the hamlet of Wassaic to the Wassaic train station in and for the town of Amenia, Dutchess County, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $1 million, and authorizing the issuance of $1 million serial bonds to pay the costs thereof. Whereas all conditions precedent to the financing of the capital project here and after described, including compliance with the provisions of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, have been performed. Whereas the capital project here and after described has been determined to be a Type 1 action pursuant to the regulations of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, promulgated pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, the implementation of which is as proposed. It has been determined will not result in any significant adverse environmental impact. Whereas it is now desired to authorize such capital project and its financing, now therefore be it resolved by the affirmative vote, not less than 2/3 of the total voting strength of the town board of the town of Amenia, Dutchess County, New York, as follows. Section 1, the construction of a bicycle trail path extending from the hamlet of Wassaic to the Wassaic train station in and for the town of Amenia, Dutchess County, New York, including and incidental improvements and expenses in connection therein, is hereby authorized, subject to permissive referendum, at a maximum estimated cost of $1 million. Section 2, it is hereby determined that the plan for the financing of the aforesaid maximum estimated cost is by the issuance of $1 million of serial bonds of the town, hereby authorized to be issued, therefore pursuant to the provisions of local finance law, provided, however, that the amount of serial bonds ultimately be issued shall be reduced by any grants in aid received, therefore. Section 3, it is hereby determined that the period of probable usefulness of the aforesaid specific object or purpose is 15 years, pursuant to subdivision 19C of paragraph A of section 11 of the local finance laws, hereby further determined that the maximum maturity of serial bonds herein authorized will exceed 5 years. Section 4, the faith and credit of said town of Amenia, Dutchess County, New York, are hereby irrevocably pledged for the payment of the principal of and interest on such bonds, as the same respectively become due and payable. An annual appropriation shall be made, and each year sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on such bonds becoming due and payable in such year. There shall annually be levied on all taxable real property of said town a tax sufficient to pay the principal of and interest of such bonds, as the same become due and payable. Section 5, subject to the provisions of local finance law, the power to authorize the issuance of and to sell bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance and sale of serial bonds herein authorized, including renewals of such notes, is hereby delegated to the town supervisor, the chief fiscal officer. Such notes shall be of such terms, form, and contents, and shall be sold in such manner as may be prescribed by said town supervisor, consistent with the provisions of local finance law. Section 6, all other matters except as provided herein relating to the serial bonds herein authorized, including date, denominations, maturities, and interest date, payment dates, within the limitations prescribed herein and the matter of execution of the same, including the consolidation with other issues, and also the ability to issue serial bonds with substantially level or declining annual debt service shall be determined by the town supervisor, the chief fiscal officer of such town. Such bonds shall contain substantially the recital of validity clause provided for in section 52 of the local finance law, and shall otherwise be in such form and contain such recitals, in addition to those required by section 51 of local finance law. as the town supervisor shall determine consistent with the provisions of local finance law. Section 7, the powers and duties of advertising such bonds for sale, conducting the sale, and awarding the bonds are hereby delegated to the town supervisor, who shall advertise such bonds for sale, conduct the sale, and award the bonds in such manner as the town supervisor shall deem best for the interest of said town, provided, however, that in the exercise of the delegated powers, the town supervisor shall comply fully with the provisions of local finance law and any order or rule of the state comptroller applicable to the sale of municipal bonds. The receipt of the town supervisor shall be full acquittance of the purchase of such bonds, who shall not be obliged to see to the application of the purchase money. Section 8, the validity of such bonds and bond anticipation notes may be contested only if, 1, such obligations are authorized for an object or purpose for which said town is not authorized to expend money, 2, the provisions of law which should be complied with at the date of publication of the resolution are not substantially complied with, and an action, suit, or proceeding contesting such validity is commenced within 20 days after the date of such publication, or 3, such obligations are authorized in violation of the provisions of the Constitution. Section 9, this resolution shall constitute a statement of official intent for purposes of Treasury Regulations, Section 1.150-2. Other than as specified in this resolution, no monies are or reasonably expected to be reserved, allocated on a long-term basis, or otherwise set aside with respect to the permanent funding of the object or purpose described herein. Section 10, upon this resolution taking effect, the same shall be published in full or summary form in the official newspaper of said town for such purpose, together with the notice to the town clerk in substantially the form provided in Section 81 of local finance law. Section 11, pursuant to the provisions of Section 35 of local finance law, this resolution is adopted subject to permissive referendum. The question of the adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly put to a vote on a roll call, which resulted as follows.
Supervisor Perotti?
Discussion, sorry.
That's right.
Yes.
Do you want to just take a minute and explain why the town needs to take out $1 million in bonds for a project that's primarily covered by grant money?
Because we have to spend the money first in order
I
to
know.
get reimbursed.
I know that, but I'm just saying.
Okay. We have to spend the money first, and then and then we will be reimbursed by grant money. The original grant is a $600,000 transportation grant.
DOT, right? That's the DOT.
With a DOT grant, the town was awarded
Bless you.
$480,000, and with a local match of $120,000. Since then, we've also been awarded a $100,000 community development block grant, another $100,000 dormitory authority grant, and a $250,000 another DOT grant.
Thanks.
Which means that when the note becomes due, we would take all of those grants and apply it toward paying off the note.
And interest rates at this time are 2% or even better, typically?
Yes.
For us, yeah.
Yeah, when we just renewed our note on the heating system, and we got 1.85% on that particular note.
Very good.
And what can happen if there's a balance on this note, what we can do is it can be issued as, through some of the language in here, it can be combined with the heating note
And maybe get even a better rate?
and get a better rate, because that's what Capital Markets is, our financial advisors, and they said, the
Leverage.
leverage is higher.
Awesome. All done.
All set?
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
And Councilman Smudgy?
Yes.
Okay, we have two resolutions for grant application. The consolidated funding application is due July 27th, and part of the requirements in the grants that you apply through consolidated funding application is where there are a multitude of grants that towns can apply for, all on one site, one application, and you just pick and choose which grant you feel is appropriate for your town. And they've just, made the whole process a lot easier.
You want me to read this one, take a break?
Sure.
Resolution number?
37.
A resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the New York State Main Street Program. Whereas the town of Amenia is seeking a grant of up to $500,000 through the New York State Main Street Program for building renovations, streetscape improvements, and project administration to continue efforts to bring about downtown revitalization. And whereas the town's proposed second Main Street grant would focus on the hamlet of Amenia, and these revitalization efforts would include renovations to buildings in downtown Amenia, seeking improvements to both commercial and residential units with grants of up to 75% of the total project cost. The grant would allocate up to $50,000 for each building, with an additional $25,000 per residential unit in the building, up to a maximum grant of $100,000 per building. The required 25% local match for this grant would be the responsibility of building owners. And whereas grant funding would support continued downtown revitalization efforts, which in the past have included the completion of a $200,000 downtown revitalization project connecting downtown Amenia with the Harlem Valley Rail Trail along Mechanic Street, in addition to the implementation of a $195,000 New York State Main Street grant awarded in 2011 that included building renovations, streetscape, and project administration. And whereas the town, the grant application,
Forget about the town.
Okay.
Whereas the grant applications.
Whereas the grant applications must be filed through the Consolidated Funding Application CFA by July 27th. Therefore, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Amenia hereby authorizes preparation of a grant application to the New York State Main Street Grant Program and authorizes the supervisor to sign and certify the application. Make that motion.
Second.
Discussion? So I agree that 500,000 sounds like a good number because there's substantial repair work that needs to be done to save significant historic buildings in downtown Amenia. But I think limiting $50,000 for each building with an additional $25,000 per residential unit sounds too low to me to fix the two main buildings that I believe must be on your sites, which would be the Red Hen, Larry Haven's building, and the Van Mossen interiors, is that right? Those two? We know Van Mossen has structural issues, has roofing issues, 50,000 50,000 isn't going to touch that. You need more than that, and I would not limit that unless there's a good reason. You're assuming, I'm just doing the quick math, 10 buildings times 50,000, it's not enough. You need to focus on one or two buildings and stabilize them and get the project done. And it'll be easier to manage one project rather than 10 little dinky projects that, if you're dealing with structural issues, 50,000 is not gonna, it's not gonna be, it's gonna bind you. So I would just strike that. Why would we limit ourselves to $50,000 per building? Unless the guidelines require you to do so.
Right. That's the only...
I
agree. That would be the only reason
abide by
why.
this
Yeah.
because we couldn't even get 10 people in the door right now, and who would want to manage 10 different projects? That's for little bits of money that don't ultimately...
Okay, do you want to take that
Strike out.
take that whole sentence out?
Yeah, I don't know
And then just
why
put,
we
because
would do that.
basically the grant is a 75-25 match. Why
It
don't we
is.
just take that
Yes,
sentence
don't limit
out?
ourselves at the outset to
And
a
just
number
say-
that's not
Say in
realistic.
accordance to the limitations of the grant.
No, I don't think we even have to say that, obviously.
Right,
so.
obviously.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, you can
So we'll take that sentence out, and we'll just leave the 75-25 local match.
Right.
So then amended motion will remove the sentence, "The grant would allocate up to $50,000 for each
Right.
building with an additional $25,000 per residential unit in the building, up to a maximum grant of $100,000 per building." So we're going to strike that sentence.
And we're
if
just-
if that's the terms of the grant, then you're stuck
Right.
by that, but if it's not, you can allocate it as you
I would
see.
Yeah.
say one building could eat up $500,000.
So we can just put it here with just the match amount and the
75%.
75 and 25. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
So with that amendment, my motion still stands.
Okay, Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Simoji?
Yes.
38. A resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to Empire State Development for downtown revitalization. Whereas the town of Amenia is seeking a grant funding for downtown revitalization, whereas the town is seeking a New York Main Street grant and intends to go apply through the consolidated funding application process for Empire State Development funds as well. Whereas the town grant applications for downtown revitalization must be filed through the Consolidated Funding Application, CFA, by July 27th. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Amenia hereby authorize the preparation of a grant application to the Empire State Development and authorizes the supervisor to sign and certify the application.
Make that motion.
Second.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Simoji?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have any other matters. Does anyone else have anything?
Announcements.
Do we have a public comment?
Oh, no, I have other matters
Oh, other
before
matters.
public comment.
Okay.
I asked,
I have
is
no
there
other.
any other matters?
I have town board comments, but I have no other matters.
No,
Yeah.
no other matter.
There's no other matters, public comment?
Oh, I do have another matter, but I'll do it under my town board comments. Go ahead. Yeah, it's fine.
We can do other matters after public comment.
I'll slide it into my town board report.
My name is Kevin Brenner, and I drove 2 hours to get here to find out that the matter that I wanted to discuss about the noise ordinance is not being discussed this evening. Is it appropriate for me to make comments having read the...
Absolutely.
Okay. For those of you who may not know my name, I suspect that I am the target of this ordinance. I own a property on Route 22, about a half a mile north of, I see the supervisor is nodding, so you must know what I'm talking about.
Oh, absolutely.
I own a property a half a mile north on Route 22, half a mile north of Cousins Mini Mart on Route 22, that I use for shooting for my own purposes. I am a law enforcement officer in Westchester County, amongst other things, and I invite friends up there and we shoot. I have been, I'll call it harassed, politely, by state troopers, by Mike, I don't know what his title is it code enforcement agent or
Yes.
building inspector or
Yes,
both? And initially when I was contacted about 2 years ago, he said, people are complaining. And I said, well, Mike, to tell you the truth, I'm not really up there from on the weekends from Memorial Day to Labor Day. I have a home in the Berkshires that we go up to, and occasionally I'll be up there. I may shoot during the summer once every 2 weeks. During the fall and spring, at most once a week. I never shoot over after sunset, and I am well within my rights to do so. The last visit I had from a state trooper, which was sometime in April, he came up. I welcomed him. I showed him around. I asked him if I was breaking any laws, and he said absolutely not. I also said to Mike when he called 2 years ago, he said, listen, here's my cell phone number. If somebody who's complaining is having a wedding or a party, call me. I won't shoot that day. I'm trying to be a nice person and a nice neighbor, and I am getting harassed. Now, you call this noise control, I call it gun control. And while I'm not an attorney, and you have, I assume, your town attorney here, there is that little piece of paper that has a Second Amendment on it, and those rights, as far as I'm concerned, are being infringed upon. Is that the right word? I'm not sure, but you understand my intent. How are you going to, I read the resolution, which again, I am not an attorney, or I read what I believe to be is the most recent draft of the resolution.
It's on the website, right? Okay.
And I don't know how it's enforceable. I mean, you define a noise ordinance for firearms as unreasonable noise. Now, I could listen to 50 rounds of a automatic rifle and not consider that unreasonable. Some elitist in the village of Wassaic may hear one shotgun round and call that unreasonable. You have local gun clubs in town, like Tamarack. I imagine that they're not going to go down without a fight. And quite honestly, I just feel that this is targeted specifically at me. In fact, unofficially, I've been told such, and I'm going to fight this, and I would suggest to the town board respectfully that if you want to put a noise ordinance in there, I didn't read anything about decibel ratings, I didn't read anything about gun clubs. How is this possibly going to be enforced? And if the intent is to just continue to harass, I am not going to take that lightly. So that's what I have to say. I would love to know why this is being, and maybe you don't have to answer that. I have no idea. I'm not a politician. But why is there a need for a noise ordinance as it specifically goes? And then, by the way, the noise ordinance also has about leaf blowers, so you're going to put the landscapers out of business? I mean, I don't know who wrote this, but it's really written, in my humble opinion, to put landscapers out of business and to not allow people to enjoy their property the way that they're allowed to by New York state law, including the SAFE Act and what it says in our Constitution. So why is there a necessity for a noise ordinance?
Well, we already had a noise ordinance in our zoning.
Why change it?
It was difficult to enforce.
And how do you think you're going to enforce this? Have you read the resolution?
Yes.
How is it possibly, explain to me, maybe you can develop a scenario where you could possibly enforce this and not cost the town money by defending it.
Well, there's
Where I am a taxpayer,
whole
by the way.
series of description of what an unreasonable noise is.
Can you read that to me?
You'd have to read pages of it. So
I did.
Okay, so it's unreasonable noise is described. Means of any excessive or unusually loud sound, or, I mean, we'll have to sit here all night, but we're happy to.
Well, there is a specific, can you read the clause about, there's about maybe...
standards to be considered?
No, the clause as it relates to, or I can read it perhaps if you have a copy handy of what relates to firearms.
Oh, the firearms is very brief.
Right.
Let's see, there is
Very brief and unenforceable, in my view.
noise from two, blah, 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 loud, grand,
16 impulsive sound levels.
16 impulsive sound levels, the creation of any impulsive, that's the only reference right there? I believe it is. I didn't see many references specifically to firearms.
Please continue reading.
So impulsive sound levels.
Yes.
The creation of any impulsive sound levels that are repeated, including but not limited to shooting of a firearm on private property so as to create unreasonable noise.
Okay.
So then you need to refer to unreasonable noise.
Right,
to
which I
understand
did.
what that is.
Right. And is there any decibel readings in that?
There is one reference to measuring where there's several
50 feet from the
references to where
property
you
line.
would measure it, but we understood from legal advice that by putting decibel readings into it is unenforceable. So we are responding to our code enforcement officer's complaint that he needs special training or special devices. There's all kinds of variables, wind, elevations. It's a highly technical job for somebody to get an accurate reading that would stand up in court. So we have used legal help to help us create a noise ordinance that would be enforceable. And we're not experts, but we have had an expert come and redo, and it's not a complete revamp, it's simply changing it so, as he recommended, to make it more enforceable.
And can you confirm what I suspect is that I'm one of the targets of that new noise
I
ordinance?
don't believe so. We've had other complaints, and what we have to do as residents is allow people to complain, and we're sorry that if
Agreed.
it seems like it's targeted, it's simply that multiple people have complained over and over again about your particular situation. So it's just...
What is my
we can't-
situation?
People complain
I know, but I mean, it's just
about
if you...
excessive, unreasonable noise, their inability to enjoy their property.
What about my inability to enjoy my property, where I also pay
We're just
taxes?
following the laws. We're having somebody,
It's
do
not,
a good job of...
it's not a finished product.
Right.
We're
We're
still
looking at
working on it.
Clearly.
There,
Do you, what are you going to do with Tamarack, which is a gun club?
You need somebody to complain in order to understand...
that's-
So
whether
let's
there's
develop this scenario.
Somebody
Let's-
has an
that's a
unreasonable objection to unreasonable noise that they're not going to...
Well, let's say if they object about my
We have it
property,
now,
why
and
shouldn't...
nobody's objected.
excuse
to
me,
Tamarack.
guys, can I just interrupt here? I'm sorry, my apologies. We're happy to answer questions, but this forum is not generally a question and answer session.
Sorry, I didn't
I would
realize
also
that.
refer you to video recordings of the last, I forget which 2 meetings.
2 meetings ago, maybe?
I can get you dates of the video recordings, but we had our lawyer who drafted this language for us came and in a very public manner. We went back and forth and spoke about the various parts of it publicly and debated the merits of certain language over others. I would refer you to that. And by all means, as a property owner here, your concerns are important to us. And if you'd like to share them in writing with us and along with your contact information, then we can respond in kind and take that feedback into account as we
move forward.
Right, and I will do that, and I've retained counsel to do that as well. I guess my question is, number one, the next time that it's on the agenda, what are the chances that it'll be canceled? Because I am a little frustrated that I drove 2 hours to get here, even though I checked on the website this morning and spoke to somebody in the office this morning to say, what time do you think that would be covered? So the next time it's on the agenda, do you have, excuse me, do you have a policy for canceling and let it know that it's public?
We didn't cancel, we tabled it to the next meeting. It will be at the next
To me,
meeting.
it's the same as canceling.
Yeah.
When is the next meeting? I'll look on the agenda. You don't have to waste time addressing that.
July.
Is
July
the
19th.
So can I ask another scenario? And if it's not the appropriate forum for that, that's fine. But let's say I am enjoying my property on a Saturday, and a state trooper comes up, or Mike comes up, and says, stop, you're making unreasonable noise. I don't think it's unreasonable. Some arbitrary person decides it's unreasonable to them. What do I do? Do I stop? Do I have to stop? Is the town prepared to defend themselves against what I think to be a ridiculous law and unenforceable? Because it's going to cost you money. It's going to cost me money too, but it's going to cost you money as well. Is the town
The
prepared
answer
to do
is
that?
that if you don't stop, you don't stop at your peril, because,
I get it. So
you're taking your chances.
thank you for answering that. Tell me, is the town board prepared to defend themselves? Because again, I'm just letting you know that me and other neighbors that I've spoke to that may or may not have a complaint are not prepared to go down without a fight and fight this, which is really gun control and not noise control. Is the town prepared to defend themselves
I think
against
that's
that?
fair. And in general, whenever we make any change to our code or our laws, we come to some consensus as a group, and we clearly are willing to stand by that and defend those.
We're required to have a public hearing also.
I realize that. But my sense
we're-
is from town boards is that by the time it goes to public hearing, it's already done.
No, not necessarily, because
Okay.
we can make changes after the public hearing. And we don't necessarily have to vote on it at the time of the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Town board comments?
I did have a request from regional Democrats about the availability of the use of the town hall, specifically the auditorium, in mid-August for congressional informational candidates.
You just need to talk to the town clerk to see if it's available.
Okay. And at
And
that
there
time,
would be a fee.
And would we be required to provide insurance? Is the rest of the town board willing to waive that requirement if I pay the $25 usage fee?
Actually, it's 50 now.
Okay, the $50 usage fee.
This keeps coming up a lot, and I just want to be sure that we're all on the same page, and this is really a question for our lawyer. Is that generally an acceptable thing to do, to waive? Basically, by waiving our insurance coverage, we are extending the town's insurance coverage to
Use of the building.
use of the building for political party activities. Is that appropriate?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I mean, use of the town facilities for political purposes, for various political parties, I believe, has been deemed to be a town purpose. So it's acceptable. I know that, it happens in many other municipalities. I haven't looked at the line of cases with respect to insurance. I don't, it's always an issue if you're treating one entity different than other entities.
Right, and
Well, we waive it typally for nonprofit or
Right.
Right,
organizations.
yeah, we
I
waive
mean,
it
to the extent you
frequently.
would waive it for a not-for-profit or, a community, if you waived it for the Boy Scouts, if you waived
We
it
waive it for the school, we waive
for a
it, yeah.
school, for any other civic association, so long as you do it in those instances, I don't believe it's improper to do it for political purpose, for political parties, so long as it's not just political parties for which you waive.
Of course. Okay, I just wanted to be sure we were, so yeah, I would support that, Vicki.
Okay. I will let them know. And the other
Well,
issue I was...
do we need to vote on that, or?
I'll wait and see if they in fact want to
Okay.
follow through. The fact that it appears that it's not a problem, I'll wait and see if they in fact decide to go forward, and I'll see if a date can be
Isn't that kind of like a community awareness, information?
Yeah.
Informational that
voter
they're-
voter information.
Voter information, maybe you have to register. It's kind of like bringing.
Oh, yeah, no, that would be I mean, in other municipalities, they'll have
And-
political caucuses
But, yeah, and
in the
any-
town hall building.
But
so,
anybody
you
could
know,
come
it's-
to that
Right.
meeting regardless of their
Right.
affiliation,
Sure.
just to find out what's
Sure.
happening.
Right.
So I think that's...
County officials frequently will have meetings in town spaces.
Yeah, they do, yes.
So it's basically similar to those type of, events.
The other thing, I was learning a little bit more after I made some corrections to the minute based on my last understanding of a definition of a user road, and thought that I'd share that with the rest of you via our stand-in for Scott Volkman. I've forgotten your name.
Jim Horan.
Jim. Thank you, Jim. And as I understood it, it was that the right-of-way on a user road ends where you've made the road stop. But he said then in some cases the shoulder or where the...
So under New York highway law, user roads are governed by Section 189 of the highway law. And In order to become a highway by user, it has to have been used by the public continuously for more than 10 years and maintained by the town. This is one of the most confusing and counterintuitive issues in municipal law, because it really, it does vary. The cases go against the actual wording of the statute. The courts have recognized that. But basically, under the definition of a highway under New York highway law, it includes more than the paved way or the traveled way. So it also includes any culverts, any drainage dishes, anything that's associated with the shoulders, anything like that. If there's retaining walls that would be needed to contain an embankment, all of those things are included within the definition of highway. So when you're looking at a highway by user, you're looking at more than just what's paved or the dirt road that's traveled. So that's one of the things that the right-of-way itself typically includes more than just the pavement itself. Where in constant distinction between a user road would be a highway by dedication, where there's some either a taking by eminent domain or a grant by deed from someone that lays out the width of the highway. New York law, the roads are typically 3 rods wide. In New York, we're barely in the 19th century as far as measurements. But 3 rods is 49 and a half feet. So by statute, our highways are 49 and a half feet wide. 3 rods is what is actually listed in the statute. So a highway by user under the statute can be opened by the highway superintendent out to 3 rods in width. And the statute itself indicates that she shall do it in this case, but that's never been done typically, because usually they're fairly narrow. I've done a lot of work on user roads and highways within the last 5 years, so I know the law inside and out. One of the things that's very interesting is a lot of the very old roads were actually laid out either in colonial times. We did work in the town of Wappinger, and I found records from the 1700s that laid out some roads at 2 rods in width, which was prior to 1800, they were typically laid out for 2 rods in width, and from 1800 till about 1820, they were 4 rods in width, then they went down to 3 rods in width. So some of the roads that are really, really old may actually have been laid out. It's just that it's very hard to find the records. So everyone's assumed that they were user roads, but they're not. One of the other things that a lot of people make the mistake of is during the 1800s, the place to look for the laying out of roads is in the town clerk's office, not in the county clerk's office. So somewhere there's probably an old road book, and what they used to do is from point A to point B, and would call out the width of the road. So it wasn't a typical meets and bounds legal description, it would be a centerline description with a width. And if you went back to the early 1800s, it would be from so-and-so's farm to so-and-so's oak tree to the black walnut at the corner of such and such's property, past a barn.
To a stake.
To a stake, right. Thence crossing the brook at. So it's, the highway by users, it's kind of an amorphous concept sometimes, but yeah, it's an interesting historical exercise sometimes to look at some of the older roads. But
Do we have an old road book?
I'd have to look. We got a lot of old stuff.
I'd love to see that.
it's actually really kind of cool. And you see old names, and you'll find like somewhere it'll, that's why it's called that road. And then the other thing too, with respect to highways by user, sometimes it's easy to figure out the width of a highway by user. Many of the old farmlands had a stone wall at each side. So you measure from stone wall to stone wall.
That's easy.
And that's pretty easy to find the width. Many times you'll find a 250-year-old tree and an embankment on one side. You measure between the distance there, and that'll be it. But many times, and the other thing is, what a lot of the user roads may be old farm lanes, so you look back in the deeds where, you know, there may be a right-of-way from one farmer to another where, you know, the father carves off a property and gives a farm to his son, retaining a right-of-way of, you know, 2 rods in width or 33 feet. Maybe they'll be nice and put it in feet rather than rods. And so there you may have an actual deed reference in some deed chain as to what the width of the right-of-way is. And then over time, it became a public road. So, you know, the challenge, there's actually some litigation in Pleasant Valley that we're involved with, and it's to that issue: how wide is the farm lane that goes up a hill and now is, you know, we were at the point of trying to abandon it, but the public has been using it as a recreation trail, and the town doesn't want to maintain it.
But for 10 years is kind of the defining.
Correct.
10 years or more, you know, it's clear. And
Used
we've
by the
had
public
this-
and maintained by
Yeah.
the town. So
Yeah.
to the extent it's used by the public but not maintained by the town, it doesn't become a user road.
Yeah.
What else we got?
Thank you.
Amenia's senior picnic, are you going to do that?
Oh, Amenia Senior Picnic is on Saturday, July 28th. It's at the Wassaic Firehouse. It's at 12 noon. If you haven't called me as yet, please call me. There's still seats available. It's going to be catered by Cousins Deli in Wingdale. It's going to be a great time. You're going to have a roast chicken dinner and all the trimmings that go with it. And it's going to be a great time. So please sign up. Also, if you're someone who would like just to come and volunteer to help out, serve some of the meals or assist, regardless of your age, you just have to be a teenage. A teenage. And we'll give you a nice chicken dinner and really welcome you. So that would be really great. We'd love to have you do that.
Especially if you need to make community service requirements.
Yes.
If you want to meet them.
Yes, make some community service. Come out here and visit with us. We're a lot of fun. The other thing is the next trip is going to be coming up on Wednesday, August 15th. Wednesday, August 15th, and it's to the Hunter Don Hills Playhouse. And the play is Nonsense, and it's a live band will be playing. It's $64 per person.
And it's dinner theater, right?
And it's a dinner theater. It's a real dinner theater. You'll choose your meal off the menu, whatever is on the menu. You pick what you like. And then they have one room for those people who just love desserts. It's a huge room, and it has every single kind of dessert you could ever dream of, think of, wish, or want. And you can have as much as you like. It's a long trip down. I'll advise you of that. But we will be stopping halfway down on the New Jersey Turnpike. I believe that's. So there'll be a little rest. You can get off the bus. You're not going to be there for an hour. Listen to me here. You're just going to get off. You have to use the rest area. If you want to get a cup of coffee, you just want to stretch your legs. That's what it's for. It's for that, and then we get back on the bus, and then in 1 hour we're back. We're on our way to the theater. And the woman who's performing, and I always forget her name anyway, but you'll all remember Three's Company, the dark-haired girl. She's going to be the starring in that show. So this is a real playhouse, real professional actors and singers and dancers and musicians and stuff. And it's really a great place. And it's all handicapped accessible. And they have a lot of restrooms. So when you go there, you know, I know you all like to know about that stuff. So it'll be coming on the TV soon. So just call me up and sign up. And we'll have a wonderful time.
Amenia Garden Club is offering a celebration of private gardens in Millbrook, Amenia, and Sharon on Saturday, July 14th, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., rain or shine. The day of the tour, it's $25, only available at Amenia Town Hall. And you can save 10% if you purchase your ticket online in advance. and that is at www.ameniagardens.org. Again, it's ameniagardens.org. So you can purchase your tickets and also enlist to volunteer at one of the gardens to be a host. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank the Amenia Fire Company for an awesome parade and barbecue and community day. That was really great. And thank you to Michelle and Supervisor Peretti for joining me in my stinky old truck.
Well, we appreciated you driving us. We had
Yes,
great,
we
good
certainly
fun.
did.
We had great, good fun.
What are you going to do, though, about those summonses you got for, for pollution, air pollution, and things like that?
Okay, it's a historic registration. It's exempt. It's in from Mission Control. Thanks, Jim. And then my other question was just Wassaic Park. I have received a number of comments about the sort of state of disrepair, missing a swing and in need of new mulch. And
The mulch in the parking lot is going down
Going
there.
down there,
As soon
great.
as Highway Department gets time, they're going to be taking the mulch down to Wassaic Park,
Okay.
the pile that we have here. And I've ordered a swing.
Okay.
The toddler swing that was down there, when I had Parkitect look at it, said it was unsafe. And so I had it removed, and we're ordering a safer toddler swing.
Okay. That sounds great. That's all I have. Thank you.
Joyce DeWitt, that's right. Thank you so much, Mike, for knowing. Joyce DeWitt, yes.
It's time for the motion to adjourn?
I think, I'm just looking at you, Jim. If you want to make that motion, I'll
Morris
write it.
motion is made.
Okay.
And seconded.
8:21.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh, no.
Okay.